Welcome to the Clemson Insiders Tiger Talk. It's Gavin Oliver here, Will Vandervoort here, as we get you set for Clemson's road trip to Louisville this Saturday at noon. Finally, Gavin, a noon kickoff. How awesome is that?
Long awaited. It would have been nicer to have a noon kickoff at home, but hey, I'm not complaining. I'll take it.
Yeah, we'll take what we can get right now because I don't think we're ever going to get one at home.
No.
I think it's going to either be 3:30 or 7:30.
Yeah.
So thank you, ACC Network, for really looking out for us sports writers.
ACC Network, y'all are doing a great job, but as far as the game time, it is not beneficial to us.
No, it does not help us at all. So anyway, I got a lot of stuff we covered the last 2 days as Clemson players and coaches met with the media. When I say coaches, it was just two this time. Only Tony Elliott and Swinney spoke to us. Brent Venables' important meeting yesterday, conflicted with the time. They couldn't work it out for he could be with us, on Tuesday. Or Wednesday, so no Brent Venables this week.
The mad scientist must be in his laboratory dug away this week.
Does that give us a sign of things to come that maybe Louisville will give Clemson defensively a little bit more trouble than most teams have this year?
I figured he would have been stowed away back in the day with Lamar Jackson, but now.
Well, they really worried about this number 3 kid, and I've watched him play He's pretty good as far as an elusive athlete. No, I think. Still got some things he's got to work on with his passing game, but
Dabo called him Houdini today. So let's see if he can pull any magic tricks out on Saturday.
So then maybe they got, I don't know if they got Lamar Jackson 2.0. Yeah. I'm sure Clemson fans are like, oh, we hope not, because Lamar Jackson, the original, was pretty hard for them to stop. But Louisville's a much better football team, and I think that was the kind of the theme today, especially with Coach Swinney, as he really praised the job Coach Satterfield and his staff have done at Louisville this year. And one of the things, Gavin, he talked about how, the difference, he was asked, what's the difference between last year when this team Clemson put 77 up on them in a 77-16 victory. I guess that's 61 points if I do my math right. Mm-hmm. And what's the difference between them then and then now when they're 4-2 and, sitting just underneath Clemson in the ACC Atlantic Division at 2-1. Dabo said, well, the difference is last year they were just in a state of disarray. The program was. This year, he says it's coaching. He says it's something what good coaching will do, and that's really what it is right now.
Very similar to what we heard him say leading into the North Carolina game with Mac Brown, how much their culture has changed and how hard they were playing, and we saw what happened that week. So I'm sure he's telling his guys this week, hey, this is not the same Louisville team that y'all played last year and blew the lid off of. I mean, he's getting, he's telling them this is a different bunch. They're getting ready to play. I think that's what he said today. This is a different deal, this Louisville team. So Tigers better come ready to play on the road, and not unlike their last road trip.
Yeah, don't be surprised. I think Clemson's going to win this game, and I think win it handily. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's an offensive shootout, because Louisville does something that right now we all kind of think Clemson is not so good at stopping, and that's the run right now. Mm-hmm. And Louisville, Dabo kind of explained about their triple, not their triple option, but their option kind of scheme where there's option principles in their offense. And so Dabo's like, you got to stay on your keys. You can't over pursue. You can't be peeking in the backfield. If you do, you're going to end up getting burned on some plays. And so they're a big play team. I think they're second in the ACC in rushing right now. And so we saw they put 62 on Wake Forest last week, most of it on the ground. So they're going to be a challenge for Clemson on the offensive side of the football. Defensive side of the football, though, Gavin, I don't think so much.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think we saw the Clemson offense show glimpses of what it can be. Last week against Florida State, they showed their potential and started to get into a groove a little bit. So if that continues, especially considering what we saw Louisville's defense looked like last week, I think there's definitely potential for a lot of points to be scored from the Tigers.
Yeah, Louisville gave up 59, by the way, to Wake Forest, and over 600 yards offense. Can you imagine losing a game when you score 59 points and have 600 yards offense?
And Wake Forest, Jamie Newman's a good quarterback, but he's no Trevor Lawrence, and the wideouts they got, the Surratt kid, he's no Justin Ross or T. Higgins or anybody, so doesn't bode well for Louisville.
Yeah, I mean, Clemson might win it 77-30 this year instead of 77-16.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's my score prediction. I'm just saying. Anyway, but to get back to Coach Swinney, other than being very complimentary of Louisville's offense and defense, he also had a couple other things to talk about today, Gavin, as he talked about an updated BT Potter.
Yeah, of course. Swinney announced after the Florida State game that BT Potter was no longer going to be their starting, or not right now. He got demoted from the starting place kicker position. Steven Sawicki, the senior, is going to get the chance on shorter field goal tries for now. Potter's still going to be the guy they turn to on longer field goals, and Potter will retain his kickoff duties. But yeah, Swinney just talked about what Potter needs to do right now in order to. He said if he's going to get that job back, he's going to have to earn it. He's got to grow up and mature, is what Swinney's saying right now about Potter. He's got to. It's not the problem. It's certainly not with his talent. Certainly not with his leg strength. In fact, Swinney says, Potter's probably the most talented kicker he's ever been around. He said he's going to kick in the NFL. He's going to be a good NFL pro kicker for a long time. But right now, it's just between the ears, not the leg, but between the ears with Potter. He's got to. Swinney's really talking about his mental toughness. He needs to improve in that area and just really grow up and learn what it takes to be a special player at his position from a mental standpoint. So he said he did say that BT responded well in practice on Monday following the demotion. So that's a good sign for Potter and Clemson fans, because Clemson is going to need Potter down. They could need Potter down the stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's what Dabo was really relaying to him the other day on the field was, look, that's a layup.
Yeah.
That's basically an extra point. You can't miss those kind of field goals. It's not acceptable, and that's been like third straight he's missed, or 3 of his last 4, and Dabo's like, those could come back to bite you, and they almost did. Remember, he missed an easy field goal at North Carolina as well, and it ended up almost did come back to bite him. So Dabo's kind of was like, hey, look, you can't do that. That's just unacceptable. We got to have those kicks when we get those. Understands missing the 45-plus field goals, but I think anything under 40. Dabo, he wants to see that thing go through. Because, hey, we always say it. As a kicker, you got one job. Just one, right? Yeah. That's all they do. Just kick the football.
Yeah. So be ready when your number's called and make the chippies and make the layups is what Dabo calls them.
Yeah. Now, not that I could make a field goal. There's no way I could. There's a reason why you got guys like BT Potter. Dabo also updated us on Braden Galloway, saying that and I'm assuming the date of which the report came back last year, Dabo says they'll have it back by December 15th, which basically means he'd be back for the bowl game, which is what we reported long time ago when we talked to Galloway's lawyer. But the thing about Braden, though, that Dabo was talking about was that Braden was very has been very good in practice. He's working with the scout team, and that he's had this real positive attitude. So it's. You always wonder how a young man's going to respond because let's be honest, he has stayed the course and said he did nothing wrong. I believe him. I don't think he did anything wrong either. And he's been suspended for, a whole season that he loses. This is not a red shirt. He loses this year of eligibility. So that means he's only got 2 years left to play for college football. So, that would be hard. I can't imagine doing something I love to do and be told that I can't do it for a whole year. I know, by the way, you don't get that year back. That would be that'd be very hard to accept.
Yeah, absolutely. But like Swinney said, he's handling it the right way with the right attitude. He's staying really engaged with the team. He's helping the other tight ends, and that's what you like to hear if you're a Clemson fan, because that's going to make it. The fact that he's staying engaged right now is going to make it easier for him to maybe transition into a role come the playoffs that he can. If Clemson makes the playoff, of course, that he can. It'll make it easier for him to slide in and be a contributor. Yeah,
and to me, that's gonna. He had a very good spring, and if you remember the reports coming out of how good of a spring he was having. They think, Gavin, you were part of his recruitment and all that. You knew what was going on with that. And they think he could be a Jordan Leggett, and that he can really stretch defenses and can cause some matchup problems. And now you're going to get this guy who hadn't played all year, who's hungry, finally gets to play football again in the playoffs.
Yeah.
What a weapon that would be for Clemson if they get to that point in the season. Now, they got to get there, but if they get there, what a weapon that's going to be for Dabo Swinney in this offense.
Yeah, absolutely. He definitely has the potential to be a difference maker with his size and combination of size and speed and ball skills. He can create matchup nightmares for sure, and especially if teams haven't been able to see him on film all year and haven't been able to prepare for him, you don't know how Clemson's going to deploy him and utilize him. So that's a scary proposition for opposing defenses if Clemson indeed makes the playoff.
Exactly. And then, Dabo also, which was the funny moment, Dabo talked about, because he was asked again about, was he too hard on Potter or whatever? And kind of the question was kind of going in that direction. Wasn't like that exactly, but Dabo was just like, he sometimes you have to give tough love to a guy to respond, and he talked about how in the Swinney household, you didn't. There was no timeout in the Swinney household when he was growing up. He says, and his no timeout with his boys either. He says, that sometimes that's just the way it is. He says, now there's nothing wrong with a timeout if that's how you want to parent. He says that's just not how he's done it. And he says, he basically treats his players like he does his boys. And so he expects, and he says, some guys you got to put your arm around. Some guys, each player's different, and how they respond to constructive criticism and coaching, if you will. And so, it was pretty good listening to Swinney's conversation about that and how he was, how he's got his own way of doing things, and he doesn't really worry what the outside people already say. He's going to coach him up the same way he coaches up his two sons or his three sons, I should say. And it was a lot of good banter and good moments there with that with that part of the press conference.
Yeah, I can't remember exact quote, but it's something along the lines of basically every player at some point in time gets a butt chewing from him, right? Is that basically what he said?
Oh yeah, and he talked about Trevor. Yeah. He said that he finally got to chew Trevor out this year. The first time he's ever got to chew. He's like, I've been waiting to yell at Trevor. And so finally this summer during fall camp, Trevor made a mistake and he got to yell at him. He said he only got to yell at Sean a couple times. And he's like, he really enjoyed that when he got to do it.
And just you can imagine Trevor's reaction when he got yelled at, like, oh, okay, coach, sorry.
Yeah, that's what he said. And that was awesome. And that is Trevor to a T right there. And I can only imagine what Deshaun did. Deshaun probably's like, got to be great.
Yeah. That's one of the things he said. He was like, ask Deshaun if I ever gave him a butt chewing, something like that. So, it was pretty funny.
But yesterday I talked to Tony Elliott, and Elliott was really very candid with the media, I thought, yesterday. Answered questions that we asked very openly. We asked him about being aggressive. What was the plan there against Florida State? Was that what they wanted to do? And they said they really stressed that all week, that they were going to go attack Florida State with the play calling, with their execution, and they did that. And then he also was asked about third down efficiency, and he was very open about that. And then maybe is the team hasn't really found that Hunter Renfrow yet, and he was pretty honest about that, saying no. That's a part of the offense that they don't have. He mentioned how before that they had Michael Palmer, they had Dwayne Allen, then they had Jordan Leggett, and then he said then you get Hunter Renfrow, who's kind of those guys too, not a tight end, but they used him in that slot position, how they use the tight ends, and so so that's something he admitted that they have not found just yet. That Amari is. They think Amari Rodgers can get there, but Amari's not there yet. I thought it was very open about that, Gavin. He's also very open about the running game and how they were going to try to use Travis with the RPOs.
Yeah, he did that. He talked about that, and he also talked about the freshman running backs too.
That's true. That's right.
Not just Travis Etienne. He really feels like 6 games into the season that Ches Malusi and Mikey Dukes, he's able to trust them a little bit more now. The game's starting to slow down for them, and that he was glad he was able to get them some opportunities against the Charlottes and Florida States, and kind of get them acclimated more and more into the system. And he hopes he can continue to get them opportunities throughout the season. But they're really starting to develop behind Etienne and Lynn J. Dixon. But he did make it clear that we got to give Dixon touches too, but first behind Etienne. So
what I did find out about when he was talking about the RPOs was that 60% of Clemson's play calls are RPOs, and that was I didn't realize it'd be that high, but the 60% of what they do, their base offense is on RPOs. Mm-hmm. And so what they did against Florida State, he said he took some of those off. He said in that way it takes pressure off Trevor, kind of gives Trevor a little break, because when it's a straight up run, it also gives the offensive line to let them know they're just run blocking. They're not having to, Trevor may pull this and I can't be upfield, or we get you get an illegal receiver downfield call. Because when the RPOs are going on, the run pass options, depending on what Trevor sees and what that safety does and his reads are, it could go from what's going to be a run to a pass, and the offensive line's got to react accordingly. And sometimes when you're blocking a guy and engaged with a guy, you don't know what's going on behind you. And so, Tremaine Ankrum talked about that yesterday, how it's a whole lot easier for them when they hear straight up run. Oh, it's a straight up run to Travis. They said we can just go engage and blow off the ball. You saw that against last week against Florida State. They really blew them off the ball, ran for 320 yards. Most of those runs were not RPOs; they were straight up runs, and so. I think you're going to start seeing more of that here in the future for Clemson football as they want to establish that running game. You also got the opportunity to talk to the last 2 days with Kane Patterson and then also McFadden, two guys we don't normally get to talk to.
Yeah.
What were those guys saying, and what were they like? Kind of being with the media this week.
Yeah, they were good. The overarching theme there was just that both are really enjoying their Clemson experience so far. Patterson said that Clemson is everything he expected it would be and more. Both have interesting stories when you look back at their recruitment, because Jordan McFadden was originally a Virginia Tech commit, but then he eventually flipped his commitment to Clemson. He said today that was the best decision he's ever made, so he's really glad he did that. And then Kane Patterson actually decommitted from Ohio State a couple of days after Urban Meyer was suspended for 3 games following the whole deal there. So yeah, he's looking back on it. He's very glad he made that choice. For him, what set Clemson apart during the recruiting process, he had 24 offers, 4-star linebacker that could have chosen to go a lot of places besides Clemson after decommitting from Ohio State. But what really set Clemson apart for him was 3 things: the culture, defensive coordinator Brent Venables, and just the overall program success. He said from the moment he met Coach B, he loved him. He said he didn't think there was any school like Clemson as far as the culture and the people, and he wanted to go play for a place that competes for championships on a yearly basis, and Clemson checked all those boxes for him. And
check.
Yeah, and got him, and he's going to be a good player in time. We saw him make his first career sack the other night against Florida State. And
looks really good.
He's going to be a good one. So
they've talked about him since fall camp.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. Of course, we covered those guys during the recruiting process and had a lot of stories on them back in the day, but it was cool to kind of catch back up with them now that they're at Clemson and hear how their experience at Clemson is going, and both are loving it.
And that's always good. A guy who loves a lot of things is Jordan Williams. He's one of our favorites, and he came and talked to us this past week. And the best part about that interview was when he got asked about the fridge package, and he just thought, well, this is I disappoint. What did he say? He said, I'm glad somebody brought this up.
Yeah.
I'm glad you asked about it. He says, 'cause I want to get this off my chest. I want to be in there and run the ball.
Yeah.
He says, but I'm never going to because I wear number 59. Dabo Swinney today confirmed that. And Dabo says he ain't ever getting in there. He's at 59. Like, we're not going to do all that. In other words, have to change the jersey and all that stuff.
Jordan said he didn't want to change his number.
Yeah, Jordan said he didn't want to change his number.
So,
but he said he would have scored, unlike Xavier Thomas. He said he would have dove in the end zone like Christian Wilkins, and said he would have got into the end zone. He says that's the difference between a defensive lineman and a defensive end.
Yeah.
So he was pretty funny yesterday.
Yeah. I feel like every defensive lineman thinks they would get in that scenario. But it's harder than it looks.
Defensive tackles, I guess they have a different mentality than the defensive end. I don't know, but he's a good guy, one of our favorites.
Yeah.
But that's all we got here on Tiger Talk. As you see, we got a lot of stuff. It's on our on the Clemson Insider website, so go check it out. We have all those interviews up for you, and we'll be covering everything you need to know about Clemson and Louisville as they get ready for Saturday's game at noon, ABC. If you can't do that, you can follow us on the message board threads, which we'll be following along the whole game as me and Gavin and Robert and Bart will all be there, and Alex will be with us too, Alex Dodd.
Yep.
So
got a great crew.
Got a great crew. We'll see you up there. See you on the other side.